On today's Locked On Predators, we'll tell you which Nashville Predator could be a surprise on the stat sheet next season, and we're going to talk about Steven Stamkos' emotional goodbye to Tampa Bay.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast, and thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this Tuesday episode with a shout out to our Locked On Pred heads. Those are our everyday listeners who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. We appreciate your support, and we love that we get to spend a little bit of your day with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I am the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
On today's show, Emma and I are going to put on our It's a Little Too Early prediction hats. They're very fancy. And we're going to share who we think could be a surprise on the stat sheet for the Nashville Predators next season. We also want to touch on a really beautiful letter Steven Stamkos penned to Tampa Bay fans. We're going to share our reaction to some of the things he said in that letter. Before we dive into all of the highs and lows of this episode, do want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Still searching for a great candidate for your company? Don't search, just match with Indeed. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Well, we are going to look ahead in a little bit and talk about, some players on the Predators roster that may surprise us, Emma, but we're going to take a little look back. We're going to go on an emotional journey with new Nashville Predator Steven Stamkos. Oh my goodness. Steven Stamkos, you're killing us softly, wrote a letter in the Players Tribune to the Tampa Bay Lightning fans. And if you have not read this, I have shared it on social media. I'm sure it would not be difficult for you to find it. You must sit down and read this letter that he wrote to Tampa Bay Lightning fans. When you read it, Emma, just what was your overall impression when you read what Stamkos wrote?
Well, I think you were the one that had the more extreme reaction. I made you cry at the nail salon when I sent it to you.
Embarrassing. I really did. I lost it sitting in the chair. I lost it.
There are some deeply personal, life events that he shares in that, things that I didn't know he had been through, that, general fans probably wouldn't know. So it's very personal. It feels very personal. And I think the Players Tribune, again, go read the story. As of Tuesday, or at least Monday night, it is the number one. It's the first story you see on the website on the Players Tribune. So it felt, the Players Tribune just does such a good job with it really does connect the players with the fans on a very personal level. And it felt very personal to me reading it, not just because he was sharing these personal details about his life, but even just the tone of the writing and the way that he would talk. It was very familiar. It's just, you're talking to a friend. And, it's something that, as a fan or as a observer, you kind of look at his time in Tampa and you see him as this larger than life kind of figure, because it's okay, you say these things. It's yeah, he was drafted there, played his whole career there, won 2 Stanley Cups, recognize that that's a big deal. But when you actually read it from his perspective, it kind of makes you think. And it's he became a man here.
Yes.
He grew into himself here. Again, think about where you were in your life at 18 years old. I know I was a completely different person than I am right now. And I have been through so much since then, and so much growing up and turning into the person that I am today. And if you think about like that's the age he was when he went to Tampa, and like that was where his life, his professional and his adult life began. And so it's really, that's what kind of makes you realize it's not just a job for them, and like
Yes.
it is about like his family, and at times you kind of read it and you're almost like, I'm so sorry, we can send you back to Tampa. Like, I'm sorry.
I know. It feels like we kidnapped him.
I know. And I feel so bad. But like at the same time, he has such a good attitude about coming to Nashville and, wanting to get, just get to work here. And that's really exciting. And I think that he's one, like, I just think that he is, I know we've said this before, but he's a consummate pro in every sense of the word. And I think that it was so, as therapeutic as this probably was for him, I think it was, to write this letter and to go through this process. I think it also is just a sign of respect to the Tampa fans and to really show them, because like, hey, it did. And, the way it ended was kind of rocky. That doesn't change my feelings towards you all. One thing I did notice, just because I'm a petty person, so I tend to notice pettiness. He obviously thanks a lot of people in the Lightning organization. And even at the end, when it gets to like,
How about girl?
From, and it's like from top to bottom. And he said from Jeff Vinnick to John Cooper, whose name did he not mention?
Come on, girl.
Your favorite, Anne, your favorite name to say, Julie.
Brisbois.
And I'm like,
I noticed that.
That's interesting. Again, I'm not trying to stir the pot, but I
noticed that.
I don't think it's a secret that, the contract negotiations are obviously what kind of made things unravel there. But he says he has a lot of great things to say about John Cooper, the coach in Tampa. And, great things to say about the team's owner, Jeff Vinnick. But yeah, interesting omission there. But overall, I think it was just very classy, very well done. Go read it if you haven't.
I agree with what you're talking about in the sense that it puts in perspective. This young man spent his formative years growing into not just this amazing professional hockey player and the captain and into a world champion, but growing into a husband, growing into a father. And he did it in front of all of these Tampa Bay fans. And I think in Nashville, we have an appreciation for that, because I think Nashville loves its people well. I think Predators fans love their team well, and Tampa Bay does too. And so I'm with you. That was really kind of what got me is, I'm thinking, this is so funny. My sons are about his, age, a little older than he was when he went to Tampa Bay. I can't imagine who they're going to be when they're in their 30s. So much life happens there. And I thought it was really so beautiful. And like you said, it was really very intimately written to the Tampa Bay fans. And I think it was just so well done. I do want to point out, Emma, and I don't know if you noticed this, there was a picture and he shared this moment. We in our house, my husband and I call them deathbed moments that are like so special that you're like, Lord, please let me remember this on my deathbed. And every so often something will happen and my husband and I will be like, deathbed moment. But Steven Stamkos was talking about something like that. They had won the Stanley Cup for the second time and his son got up and they fixed him a bowl of cereal. I think it was Sesame Street Alphabets.
Yep.
Yes. And he ate out of the Stanley Cup. But Emma, what did we see in the picture?
There was a bowl inside of the Stanley Cup.
Because Steven Stamkos and his wife understand germs and sickness
because they love their children.
So if I was impressed with Steven Stamkos before, now seeing that he puts a bowl inside the bowl to feed his child out of, I'm like, Steven Stamkos, I will build you a statue with my own hands next to Pekka Rinne's. You're just not being gross.
You're gonna walk up to him at training camp and just shake his hand and You're like,
I won't
thank
even
you for your
flinch.
service.
I won't even flinch because I will know his hands are probably very clean because he makes good choices.
That's right. That's right.
He's making good choices. I will say at the end of the letter, like, and I did, full disclosure, I cried reading this letter in public, a little bit embarrassing. Of course, I texted Emma because that's what I do when things get embarrassing. But there was a part of me, Emma, that was like, can he love us? Can he love Nashville like this? Because there really is something so special that happened there. But we are going to get to hear from Steven Stamkos today. I really feel like that letter was a way for him to turn the page. I'm really excited to hear from him, to hear him talk more about Nashville. Of course, the story has been he's not in Tampa Bay anymore. But now I think the story is going to turn even for him into I am a Nashville Predator now. And this is what I see going forward. So excited to hear from him today. But absolutely go read it. It was just masterful.
Yeah.
Don't read it in public.
I think
welcome.
I think it'll be interesting to hear from him because the first time we heard from him was literally the day he signed with Nashville, where things were still obviously very raw and very fresh and very emotional with him, understandably so. So I thought, like, again, I think I said this before when we were talking about him and Jonathan Marchessault. Like, Marchessault sounded a little like feisty, but Stamkos just looked dejected. He just looked sad. And like, again, I'll be interested to see, like, if, like you said, this was kind of a turning the page for him. And, you know, again, not saying he won't be sad at all or that, you know, but like maybe it'll be, you know, just to see if his kind of attitude or his demeanor has changed really. So yeah, I'm excited to hear from him.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And of course, we will bring you all the details of what Steven Stamkos says on tomorrow's episode. We will let you know what we learned from him and we will report on his demeanor as well. It's going to be really great. So be sure that you tune in to tomorrow's episode as well. Coming up, we are going to talk about some other Nashville Predators players who we really feel like are going to make a really big splash in Nashville on the stat sheet next season. We're going to make some way too early points predictions. We're going to do that in just a moment. First, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. We are all driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. So ditch that busy work, use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed is not just about helping you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked-on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked-on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on the podcast. Again, that's Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, Emma, I think you and I can safely say we feel like Steven Stamkos is, I don't know, I'm just going to throw it out there, a spitball in here. I think he's probably going to be, up in the top of points next season for the Nashville Predator, barring some sort of weird thing happening. But there's some other players that we think might surprise us, might surprise Nashville Predators fans when it comes to how they're going to perform next season. So, first of all, I just want to kick it off by asking you, like, you were forced right now to make this decision. Andrew Brunette called you up. He's like, tell me your answer. Who is your top 6 for the Nashville Predators to start the season? With, by the way, no information from training camp.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Seems like a well-informed decision I'm going to make here.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. I think so, keeping in mind that the opening night lineup need not be set in stone.
Thank you for that. Yep.
I would go. Let us all remember that Juuso Parssinen was on the top line at the
That's
start
right.
of last year. So just throwing that out there. But I think you got to go. You don't break up a line like Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist. Not saying you never do, but I'm saying with the success they had last year, it's very hard to justify breaking them up, at least
Yep.
at the beginning. Second line. See, I'm torn.
I know.
I think it should be like in a perfect world,
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Novak will be ready for that second line center role
Mm-hmm.
because if he's the second line center between Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault, that would be my second line.
Right.
With the caveat, though, that we saw Tommy Novak took a little bit of a step backwards in the playoffs. I'm not overreacting too much to that because he had a perfectly fine regular season considering the injuries and whatnot. But, and, you know, he had, like, he could be sort of the playmaker, and then Marchessault, Stamkos, both pretty defensively responsible as well. So, like, there's your safety net. Maybe they can help elevate him into that role. But at the same time, last year we thought Gus Nyquist could elevate Cody Glass into a second line center, and that didn't exactly work out.
Yeah, there were some things that happened there for sure.
So, and understanding these are not the same player, I get that. But if for whatever reason Tommy Novak is not prepared to step into that role, I could see Colton Sissons starting on the second line. Do I think that he should stay in that role for the foreseeable future? No, but we know he can do it.
Right.
I just, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I would say top line stays the same. Second line is new guys plus Novak with an asterisk.
Right. And here's the other thing that I think we may end up having to do with Nashville this season is reframe the way we think about second line, third line, fourth line, because I do think you are really going to roll lines that have a lot more offensive punch clearly than we did last season. You know, because we had the top line last season and then there was 9 other guys that played. So they were there. But I do think there is going to be kind of a reframing of expectations for top 6 guys and like bottom 6 guys. And I think you can elevate a lot of those expectations with what they've done. But when you look at this Predators roster as it is, you know, kind of hazy right now, as we speculate that it will be, is there a player who you say, this is somebody who is going to knock our socks off when it comes to point totals?
So I want to say if it clicks for him, I think he can be really, really, really good. Like, yes, and can really be that guy. I would also like to say that Luke Evangelista can be that guy based on the way he played, especially down the stretch this last season. However, with the lines being what they are, or I should say the roster being what it is right now, the way that we have just laid it out, or the way that I just laid it out, that buries him on the third line with likely, you know, Colton Sissons and maybe Mark Jankowski, which I don't think that is going to elevate him to the role that he, you know, that he is expected to play and that I think he's capable of playing. So we could see something crazy happen. Like maybe you put, I'm just totally spitballing, but if you put Jonathan Marchessault on your third line, you spread the wealth a little bit. You get some scoring throughout the lineup, like even more. And now you can get Evangelista on the second line. You can, get him with Stamkos, and Stamkos could really do for him like what Nyquist and O'Reilly did for Philip Forsberg. I think that, that's something that don't be surprised if we, see them experimenting with some things like this.
Yeah. And I think they're going to have to experiment with it because I can't believe I'm even saying this, but you have such a wealth of offensive weapons.
Yes. When you think Nashville Predators, you think offensive depth.
Sentences I never thought I would say on a podcast for 800. Yeah, that's it. But I agree with you. I think Tommy Novak could be set up. And again, we'll have to see how it all plays out. But Tommy Novak could be set up to really surprise everyone with his point totals. Last season, he played 71 games, had 18 goals, 45 points. But you think about if you put him between Marchessault and Stamkos, his assist totals are going to go through the roof because, you could throw a puck at those guys blindfolded and half the time they would probably score a goal. The other thing that I looked at with Tommy Novak, and I was actually kind of surprised by this, and I say that with love in my heart for Novi. He was 7th on the team last season in shots. This is a guy who sometimes you want to be like, hey, just remember, you can shoot the puck. Always an option. 7th in shots. But when it comes to shooting percentage, he was 2nd on the team, only behind Spencer Stastny. But Spencer Stastny only took 11 shots.
I was going to say, kind of a small sample size there, but
very small. So this is one of those times where stats tell the truth, except when they're lying.
Yes.
So when you look at the guys who took over 100 shots for the Nashville Predators, Tommy Novak, 15.9%. That's his shooting percentage. Gus Nyquist had 15%. Ryan O'Reilly, 14.4%. Forsberg, 13.8%. Tommy Novak can shoot the dang puck.
He can.
We just want Tommy Novak to shoot the dang puck. So I really think where he plays, who he plays with, I think he could be exceedingly successful, especially if he's on that second line. I also think even if you put him on a third line, we've seen him be successful with Luke Evangelista before as well. If we can get him playmaking and just throwing it out there again, spitballing on Tuesday, take some more shots, I think Tommy Novak could really surprise people, not just in Nashville, but I think Tommy Novak may be somebody that people in the league start talking even a little more about if things go his way this season.
Well, and I think it's pretty impressive. The numbers may not jump off the page at you from this past season for Tommy Novak, but and we've talked about this, how this Predators team until now has been a very top heavy team where it's like you have the same 4 guys doing all the scoring. So it was Roman Josi and then the top 3 forwards. And then, and they were all like, I think Forsberg had the most. He had 94 points down to O'Reilly, who had 69 points. But they were all like those top 4 guys were all in the same kind of range between 69 to 94. And then there was a massive drop off. But that number 5 guy under O'Reilly was Tommy Novak. Yeah. And he was injured for like a month. And like you said, only played 71 games, still ended up with 45 points. And again, I think you're only going to see those numbers go up, A, when he's healthy.
Yes.
Ideally. And B, when he gets with, really talented offensive forwards, which he hasn't always been with. And so I think that, I don't know, I like the idea of him between 2 veterans. But again, we've also seen him play very well. Remember way back when, this feels like forever ago, but it was the line of Kiefer Sherwood. I'm sorry. Kiefer Sherwood, Tommy Novak, and Luke Evangelista.
They were fantastic.
They were. So it's like, that Novak and Evangelista, they're also friends. They kind of have this weird telepathy thing too in the locker room. Like they just kind of look at each other and it's just like, and like you don't even know, but like you're like something was just communicated. I don't know what it was.
Don't want to know, but there's a vibe.
So I'm like, maybe you get Evangelista up on that second line with Novak and Stamkos. You move Marchessault to the third line again. Just I think all options are on the table right now, as they should be.
Yeah. There's a lot of potential, I think, for Tommy Novak to have his best point total season for sure. I think, and I love it because he's just a little bit of a late bloomer. We tend to lump Tommy Novak in with like the youth movement, and
Yeah.
Tommy Novak, again, not real age, not chronology old, but he is a little bit older than the Luke Evangelistas, than the Phil Tomasinos.
Yeah.
But he's just a little bit of a late bloomer. And I really do think he could be set up well, like you said, whether it is on the second line with these two veterans, or if he and Luke Evangelista can continue to build on the steps forward they took, this could be a season where Tommy Novak becomes a much more common name across the league. And you know what? 100% here for that. Like, give the guy some ice cream and tell him good job.
And yeah, you know what? From one late bloomer to another. Tommy Novak, I support you. I root for you because you are just, representing all of us late bloomers in life.
Let's go.
And I really do think that he will be under the radar, like a very, very, he shouldn't be that far under the radar. Like, they signed him to that contract to be a second line center, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. He also, just personality wise, he's a little under the radar kind of guy. He's low key.
Very, like, low-key. I can't even imagine, like, the most excited I've seen him about anything is just like, huh.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just it.
And the most distressed I've seen him was when he was talking about how he always ate ice cream on the road games.
Yes.
That was part of his pregame routine, and they took the ice cream away and he was distraught. Here's what we know about Tommy Novak.
That's how distraught I was when they took away the cookies on the team plane.
Dude,
I will never forget that. I'm still mad about that.
Stop messing with things that are perfectly great.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Across the board. And here's what we know about Tommy Novak. He is not going to cry reading something in the Players Tribune while getting his nails done. So shout out to always steady Tommy Novak. Coming up, we are going to talk about a couple other players we think could potentially surprise you on the stat sheet next season. I think we all know this is going to be one exciting season for the Nashville Predators and for Nashville Predators fans. And of course, Emma and I are going to be covering all the news, all the action every weekday on Locked On Predators. But if you have questions or thoughts or just want to talk more in-depth Nashville Predators hockey once the episodes end, we want to invite you to check out our Locked On Predators Insider program via subtext. You're going to get a chance to chat Nashville Predators hockey with Emma and I anytime. And we're going to also bring you exclusive insider content like in-game analysis, breaking news, and reaction. And we're going to give you a chance to weigh in on what you want to talk about when it comes time for the Predators. Check out our insider program, find out the details in the episode description, or you can check out the link in our bio. All right, Emma, look, I know. I just want to preface what I'm about to say with, I know this may be a crapshoot, but I do want to throw out there that if Cody Glass is still on the roster, I really feel like he could surprise people. Obviously, I believe we are going to see improved stats from last season where he played 41 games and had 7 goals, 20 points. 3 of those goals came against Colorado, which I love that you pointed out to Chris and Kyle on our crossover. That was beautiful. I don't know if you remembered, but...
Yeah, he didn't do much else last season, but he did that.
But he had that hat trick and you all had to watch it. That's right. I really feel like there could be a role for him potentially if he is around. And I do think that we could see elevated play again if Cody Glass is on the roster. Here is my biggest question, though, and we're still learning these things about Andrew Brunette. Can Cody Glass earn Andrew Brunette's trust in a new season with a fresh start, because there really was almost an issue of quote unquote trust. And I think if he can do that, if Andrew Brunette is in a position where he can say, okay, clean slate, let's see what you've got this season, there's potential for Cody Glass to surprise some people with his performance.
Yeah, I mean, kid's a top pick for a first round pick for a reason. You know, he obviously has been dealt a less than ideal hand in hockey and in life. And I think that he has, certainly gone through more at his age than some people go through in their entire careers. And
Yeah.
I hate that for him because he's like genuinely one of my favorite people. But I think that eventually you do kind of have to, get the tough love, put your tough love hat on and be like, okay, like we signed you to that 2-year bridge deal. That was your prove it deal.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly you didn't prove it last year, but you were also injured for a lot of the time. That's okay. It is hard because like with him, the longer things progress the way they are, I do wonder if he might be in a Phil Tomasino need a change of scenery kind of situation. Just because it is hard to have that truly clean slate like you're talking about if you're still in the same organization. And I don't mean to, to imply that Andrew Brunette has any sort of personal vendetta against him.
Yeah,
I
and
just
I don't
think
mean that either, but I think he was very clear that there was a hitch in the giddy up when it came to Cody Glass last season, and we haven't seen Bruno come back a second. We're waiting to see what does a clean slate look like to him. Do
Right.
players get that in training camp? We don't know yet.
I mean, it's the same, and that's exactly right. We've only seen him for one season, and like it's hard to judge within a single season, like whether someone gets the clean slate or whatever. I mean, we saw it a little bit. Like you had, Kiefer Sherwood was healthy scratched for a while, and then he came in and really hit his stride, and he earned his trust. And even Luke Evangelista got benched for a game, came back, earned his trust. Yakov Trenin benched, came back, earned his trust. So it's like I don't know. It's hard to say because you even have, guys like a Dante Fabro, for example, same situation. Like he just ended up as the odd man out. And Brunette even said, like, well, he was playing fine. He just like, we don't have room. And it's like, okay, if he's going to say that about Dante Fabro, what does that mean for someone like Cody Glass, who he has been, outwardly critical? And when I say critical, I mean, constructively. Yes, constructively critical of. He does have empathy and he has compassion for him and says and one thing that he said about Cody is like, I think he just needs to find his why again. He needs to remember why he does that. Why does he play? Get out of his own head. And that is so much easier said than done. So I hope that he can turn it around, and I hope that it's with the Predators selfishly because
me too.
It's just way less fun going into the locker room when he's not there. So
he is such a delight. He is such a delight. And I know I use that word a lot, but he is, if you look it up in the dictionary, you see Cody Glass.
I will also have fewer like pieces of like garments and equipment tossed at me if he's not there, which in a weird way I will kind of miss because it was kind of like our greeting or his greeting to me. I didn't throw things at him, but
I just think he needs to sit and talk to Steven Stamkos about how we do things appropriately with hockey. With hockey equipment and trophies, there is appropriate, safe, germ-free behavior, Cody Glass.
Yeah. Now, Cody, if you could throw a freshly laundered sock at me, then that would be fine.
That makes a very different statement.
Yes.
It makes a very different statement. Yeah. He is my sleeper pick if he is here. Yeah. To surprise some people, because I think he has for the most part maybe been written off by the fans as well. And I understand. I understand why people feel that way. So we're going to have to wait and see who surprises us on the stat sheet. Those are kind of Emma and my picks. We'd love to know, who do you think is going to surprise us next season when it comes to points? Let us know. Drop us a note in the comments on YouTube. You can, of course, tweet us your answer, LO_Predators as well. We are going to be back tomorrow. We're going to hear from Steven Stamkos. I will not cry. It's going to be amazing. We're going to hear from him later in this week. We are also going to hear from Brady Shea and Scott Wedgwood. So we're going to bring you that as well. So lots of great content coming this week. Make sure you tune into the podcast each day. Before we sign off, though, Emma, let us know, where can we find you and your work?
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find my work at Penalty Box Radio. You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. That is going to do it for this Tuesday episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, hey, go check out our friends Chris and Kyle at Locked On Avalanche and see what they've got cooking going on this offseason in the Central as well. We will see you all tomorrow with a brand new episode. Have a great day.